Well, there's going to be hell to pay. I got to tell you, remember Bongino warned us, guys? Remember Dan Bongino said, watch out, there's a lot more where that came from just a few weeks ago. And then we've seen Comey get indicted. And what do we learn now? Oh, FBI agents. They were spying on sitting U.S. senators, all Republican, of course. This is Biden's FBI. This is like worse than Watergate, okay? This is a big freaking deal, and we're going to get all into it. I've looked at the FBI report, and I'm going to share it all. Unbelievable stuff. Welcome to the program, everyone. Thank you for being here. So again, we're all over the FBI firing now. Kash Patel just came out moments ago and said, these people are gone. Anybody that was involved in wiretapping U.S. senators, gone. But you know what? There's more where that came from. To Dan Bongino's point, there's going to be hell to pay. Wait till you see what Pam Bondi has to say about this. Meanwhile, Fani Willis. Oh, remember Fani Willis? Fani Willis. Well, her case against the now President of the United States is about to be thrown out. And there's not a darn thing she can do about it. Poor Fanny, like your you know what. And in Chicago, I mean, they're looking for a fight. Are you kidding me? This guy is totally wackadoo, loco, as they say, but you're not supposed to say that. Wait till you see him in a sombrero. That meme's coming, you know it. The Chicago mayor igniting a total firestorm, basically trying to bring on some kind of, I don't know what, like, are we going back to an era in history that we don't want to repeat? Federal government versus local government. Here we have him declaring ice-free zones.
And today we are signing an executive order aimed at reining in this out-of-control administration. The order establishes ice-free zones. That means that city property and unwilling private businesses will no longer serve as...
I'm telling you, this is Alabama 1963. In all seriousness, I mean, it seems a little different because people's skin colors are a little different, but this is Alabama 1963. Think George Wallace. Meanwhile, the government shut down. Oh my gosh, the Democrats still can't accept that they're getting blamed for this. There's another meme. I'd say AOC and Nancy Pelosi are looking surprisingly good. Dios mío. Dios mío, indeed. Remember to subscribe. We begin today on this breaking story. FBI agents. Get a load of this. FBI agents being fired right now in the here and now. This is happening moments ago with Kash Patel coming out saying everybody's gone that was involved in this. Don't forget, this is that Arctic frost, that we've been hearing more and more about, because you see, Joe Biden wanted to go after all of these people. Joe Biden's FBI was a big, big problem. It was a holdover from the Obama days FBI. And you have Kash Patel coming out saying on X, transparency is important, accountability is critical. We promise both, and this is what promises kept looks like. We terminated employees. We abolished the weaponized CR-15 squad, as it was known, and we initiated an ongoing investigation into more accountability measures ahead. Dan Bongino replying to the Post and echoing Kash Patel's message, writing, quote, we promised you transparency and accountability. We will continue on those promises. You deserve better. You better believe everyone deserves better, including the poor senators that got tapped by this guy, Jack Smith. You're looking at him on the screen. Not much of a looker, but, not much of a lawyer either. Not much of a human being, frankly. If this is your way of going about and doing things, you're going to go use the FBI resources. What is this, Herbert Hoover all over again, I should think? Anyway, Jack Smith tracking the private communications of nearly a dozen GOP senators, it is said, as a result of that J6 probe. During that J6 probe, apparently they were so worried about who might possibly overthrow Biden from coming in and taking things over. And this is what we're dealing with, guys. Okay, this is what we're dealing with. So they decided to go and wiretap these guys, and these guys, including Marsha Blackburn, including Josh Hawley, they're not very happy. You heard what I just read to you, the tweets that were put out by Bongino and by Kash Patel. Kash also saying to Fox, we are cleaning up a system of decades in the making and identifying problems, restoring integrity, and ensuring accountability throughout the Bureau. Easier said than done, right? Again, tracking communications, calls of nearly a dozen GOP senators during the J6 probe. According to the FBI, Dan Bongino actually briefed all of those people, Lindsey Graham, Josh Hawley, Ron Johnson, Marsha Blackburn, and more late yesterday. And now heads are rolling. As I said moments ago, firings made. Okay, so they're getting rid of this, what is it called? The CR-15 squad. They're getting rid of all these people that participated in this so-called Arctic frost. There's the memo from the FBI. This came up, and believe me, Hawley's mad. He's really mad. Josh Hawley, they're all mad. Loomis is mad. Blackburn's mad. Everybody's mad. I mean, what a violation of your privacy, a violation of your constitutional rights. So listen to me and listen very clearly. You know what? There's going to be prosecution that follows. There has to be. So you've just discovered that the FBI is illegally spying on senators. How can that happen? How can they do that? There's got to be repercussions, and that's what's coming next. And Pam Bondi promised as much. Let's listen in.
Manner of things and the current president. I've also heard them said, and I just wrote it down because I wanted to be sure I heard it correctly. I've heard them say that Joe Biden never targeted his political enemies. Joe Biden never directed his attorney general to target his political opponents. That's interesting, because I could have sworn that yesterday we learned that the FBI tapped my phone.
What do you know?
Let's look at it. We've got a list. Tapped my phone, tapped Lindsey Graham's phone, tapped Marsha Blackburn's phone, tapped 5 other phones of United States senators. Gee, it sure looks like targeting political opponents to me, and yet I haven't heard a word from that side of the dais about any concern whatsoever. We've got nothing but concerns today, but no concern at all for a Justice Department that is tapping the phones of sitting United States senators because who knows why. They don't like them. They're members of the opposition party. They're Republicans. They're conservatives. You've seen this document, Attorney General Bondi. Well, what was going on here? Who ordered this? Who ordered the tapping of the phones of United States senators?
We don't know yet.
Senator Hawley, I cannot discuss the details of that right now for very good reason.
You're going to do a thorough investigation into this, I trust. Is that correct?
We will be looking at all aspects of this, and I have talked to Director Patel at length about this.
And you're going to figure out who was involved in this, who signed off.
They tried to take us down. I mean, one of you guys was pointing that out. They sure as heck did. But you know what? You can't take us down. This is the American people you're talking about. And that's one of the reasons Donald Trump is back in office. He's got to clean the place up. And that's what Kash has got to do. And that's what Bongino has got to do. I don't know Kash as well. I know him a little bit. I have a lot of friends that know him quite well. And I can vouch for Bongino because we worked together at Fox and we've known each other for many years. And he is just awesome at his job, and he's committed to making sure that this doesn't happen again. I mean, you can't live in a world, right, where they just lie through their teeth and they're using all of the assets that they have in the federal government to their strength, to their ability to squash the other side. I mean, when you think about the things that we learned, even from Mark Zuckerberg, right, at Facebook, it is unbelievable, unbelievable. And so, like, none of this surprises me. But what we need in the here and now, you guys, what we have to have is accountability, okay? Because it's one thing to find all this stuff out. And there's a part of me that's like, oh my gosh, another thing, another day, another thing, right? We're finding it all out. It's important. They didn't want us to find it out. That's why they were so desperate to make sure that Biden won again. And then when they couldn't get Biden, they knew he was on his last legs, like, unfortunately, literally. They put in the laughing hyena, Kamala Harris, all right, that nobody could take seriously. And they didn't understand, like, why we didn't want somebody like that to win. Well, because she's incompetent. Okay, incompetent, but they couldn't have all of this learned. They didn't want us to figure out all this stuff. I'll tell you, Josh Hawley is, you know what, it begins with a P. Wow. Yesterday afternoon, as this news was breaking, here's what he had to say.
I believe also track our location over a period of days. This is outrageous. I mean, this is really unbelievable. It's blatantly unconstitutional. It's a violation of the First Amendment. It's a violation of the separation of powers. And it also goes to show you the extent to which the Biden administration was so corrupt, using the FBI to target their political enemies. And let's not forget, they didn't just do it to senators. They did it to school board parents who went and spoke up at those school board meetings. They did it to 92 conservative organizations, including Charlie Kirk's Turning Point USA. They tried to recruit spies into Catholic parishes. That's the kind of people we're dealing with here. Bill, we need a total investigation, a thorough investigation into everybody who was responsible, and I think there needs to be prosecutions.
Okay, so
yes, there has to be prosecutions. Yes, yes, yes. You can say it again. Okay, so these guys are fired. They're out the door. Bongino told us it was happening.
Are you going to be looking into, Kash and Pam, any potential collusion between the DOJ, Letitia James, the novel legal theory of Alvin Bragg or Nathan Wade or Fani Willis and the DOJ? Is that something? Has anything come up? Is there any way to determine whether or not evidence was destroyed in any of these cases?
Well, there's always a way to determine that. I don't want to comment on that specific case right now for a reason. I don't want to get ahead of the Department of Justice on that. But I want to say this. You know, the FBI obviously has the public corruption portfolio. And yes, if you are a corrupt politician out there, if you are engaged in behavior, you know what you're doing, we're going to find you. I promise. No one is going to get off. The days of selecting and putting your partisan bias on and taking care of your friends, those days are over.
Those days are over. Those days are over, indeed. This is why they're cleaning it all up, okay? This is why he says we are cleaning up a system that was decades in the making. I mean, I'm going to go all the way back to Barack Obama. I mean, considering what Tulsi has revealed, right, about Barack Obama and Arctic frost and this entire op that they put into place after they found out Hillary Clinton, shocker, didn't win the election. And then they had to blame it all on the Russians, even though they knew that that was not the truth, but they spun it anyway. I'll tell you, we need more information. We've got to get more information. We've got to have more come forward. Here's Cynthia Lummis, the senator, who also was wiretapped. I mean, there were like 12 of them, for goodness sakes. Not to mention all the spying being done in Catholic churches, all the spying being done into any kind of conservative activist group like Turning Point. Yes, you heard Josh Hawley mention that. Charlie Kirk's own group. Unbelievable, disgusting behavior. Not American in any way. And they got to go down big time for it. Here's Cynthia Lummis, who, by the way, is weighing her options because basically they violated her own civil rights.
Needs they're accusing us of doing.
If I could ask you just one quick question before we go. At this morning's hearing that Senator Grassley was chairing, Senator John Kennedy of Louisiana said, wait a second, we've got to have a hearing into this. Grassley, who we'll be speaking with in our next hour, seemed to indicate that he didn't have enough information to call a hearing. How quickly do you think that he should get this matter before Congress?
Well, I think we do need to give the FBI more time to investigate who these people are, who approved this, and if there are other names on this list. It is kind of a hodgepodge of names on this list. Were there other senators whose phone records were sought and given to the FBI? Why? All of this remains unknown. So I do think we need to give the FBI some space to further investigate this. That said, I'm looking at and exploring my options.
Good.
As a specific senator whose rights have been violated.
Yes.
Can you give us an example of that, where you might go with
watch this?
Well, you look at the law and the violation of rights. Perhaps those senators involved have their own cause of action against the Biden FBI and the individuals in charge of the FBI. Could they be held liable criminally, civilly? We need to explore all those options.
All right. Well, this is a big onion, and it's going to get peeled back layer by layer, I'm sure.
Wow. Okay, so I'm going to give the short answer to that.
For the first time.
Yes.
Really appreciate
Thank you,
seeing
Senator.
Thanks, John. Thanks, Sandra.
All right.
Oh, they're still talking. They're still talking. Anyway, the short answer to Senator Loomis's question about whether or not anybody can be held liable criminally, civilly and criminally, absolutely yes. Again, this is the FBI document that she was citing. And let me just say, she's got some room to run here because we're talking about violations of the Wiretap Act, 18 U.S.C. 2511. Okay, this prohibits intercepting communications without consent. You can't just like wiretap somebody's phone, right? You can't, okay? You get the Computer Fraud and Abuse Act. This is 18 U.S.C. 1030 if hacking or unauthorized access was involved. So again there, state privacy and eavesdropping laws often carry civil and criminal penalties. In other words, this is criminal style activity. It's one thing to fire them. I want them all sued. I want them all I want them all paying some serious prices. And it's not just like the peons that are doing the work, okay? It's not just the FBI agents that are being directed by Jack Smith. It's like, who's giving these orders at the very top? Who was actually responsible? And so these are the right questions to be asking. I'm telling you, there are criminal charges. There are civil charges that can come forward with, and hey, you know, you got an indictment guy over there, James Comey, who's sweating bullets, as well as the rest of them. And did you hear Brennan the other day? I played you guys that sound on MSNBC. He's like, I didn't do anything wrong. I didn't do anything wrong. They can't come after me. Yeah, right. You guys all did something wrong. You conspired together. I'm thinking RICO. I mean, you tried to go after him with RICO. He's going to go right back at you. You got Comey out there before the election. What was this, February? And he was trying to beg everybody not to vote for Donald Trump. Why? Oh, because they would discover this. Exactly what we're looking at right now.
When you think about a second Trump administration, what do you think the implications would be for the FBI?
Oh, serious, for the Justice Department and the FBI, because Trump is coming for those institutions. He knows their power, and I think he has regrets that he didn't work hard enough to corrupt them last time. So he's coming for them, and that's a danger for all Americans. He's going to put people in positions in those organizations. He didn't have all-stars the last time. He'll have the bottom of the barrel this time. But people who will want to do his will, and that should worry every American. This election matters because...
You know what should worry really and truly every American is if you guys had stayed in power. Okay, so I want to share with you what Trump put out on Truth Social today. He wrote, and I quote, "Deranged Jack Smith got caught with his hand in the cookie jar. A real sleazebag." A real sleazebag. I mean, we got sleaze city everywhere, whether we're talking about Comey, whether we're talking about Brennan, whether we're talking about the team that put the 51X spooks together to go and say, oh, no, that's just Russian misinformation fed to you courtesy of Rudy Giuliani. That laptop, that's not real, except it was, and the FBI was investigating it, and they knew all that, but they told you otherwise. They knew that the lab in Wuhan, China was doing gain-of-function research, but did they tell you that? No, they actually put people in timeouts that dared to even talk about these things. I mean, these people did some bad stuff. I mean, the difference, perhaps, you know, Donald Trump gets out there and he says Letitia James is awful or Jack Smith is a sleazebag, and he goes after them sort of head to head, right? These people were all behind the scenes, manipulating things however they could, calling up their Columbia University professor friends when they wanted to leak something to the press, just like James Comey did. Watch.
Director Comey, have you ever been an anonymous source in news reports about matters relating to the Trump investigation or the Clinton investigation?
Never.
Have you ever authorized someone else at the FBI to be an anonymous source in news reports about the Trump investigation or the Clinton investigation?
No. I needed to get that out into the public square, and so I asked a friend of mine to share the content of the memo with a reporter. Didn't do it myself for a variety of reasons, but I asked him to because I thought that might prompt the appointment of a special counsel.
You see how they were using the media behind the scenes. By the way, that was his Columbia University friend who had a friend in the upper echelons of the print media in the good old USA of America. Meanwhile, he got on there and he seemingly, I mean, if you ask me, it sounds like he's kind of lying or trying to massage the truth in a pretty desperate way to one Senator Ted Cruz. This is what's going to take the guy down.
To another topic. On May 3rd, 2017, in this committee, Chairman Grassley asked you point blank, quote, have you ever been an anonymous source in news reports about matters relating to...
I don't know if you guys can hear that well. The audio is a little bit tricky, but he's asking, have you ever been an anonymous source in news reports? And then he goes on to say no, and the contention is that he is lying to Congress. So again, the effort right now is to clean up the FBI. The effort right now is to make sure that people are held accountable. A dozen Republican senators had their phones wiretapped as part of his investigation into January 6th. So you got Jack Smith, who said, okay, I'm doing this investigation. An investigation, I should mind you, that went nowhere, okay? Absolutely, positively nowhere. But somehow he thought that it was worthwhile to wiretap. Did he get a FISA warrant for these things? I don't think so. I think somehow he just decided to tap them all. And for that, this guy's going to go down big time, okay? We got to get more information. Maybe I'm jumping the gun. Maybe he went and got all the proper clearances. But what I'm hearing is that he didn't. I'm hearing he just went straight bare barreling ahead because he wanted to go after these. They were after anybody who had anything to do with Donald Trump because they wanted to take him down and make sure he never ran again. Don't forget, they were out there doing crazy stuff. Even when Donald Trump won first time around, for goodness sakes, Jimmy Carter tried to tell us he was a Russian plant.
There's no doubt that the Russians did interfere in the election. And I think the interference, although not yet quantified, if fully investigated, would show that Trump didn't actually win the election in 2016. He lost the election, and he was put into office because the Russians interfered on his behalf.
So do you believe President Trump is an illegitimate president?
Oh, they think this is funny.
Based on what I just said, which I can't retract.
Funny stuff. Yeah, really, really funny, guys. You know, you got to go a long time back in history to see anybody trying to suggest what they were suggesting about the election. Really, really, really far back. And you never had a sitting president doing that. So what they did was truly damaging to the American brand, to the American psyche, and they need to pay the price. And this is why the American public did. No matter what Kamala tries to say, she's trying, oh, it was a close election. It was the closest election of the 21st century. She literally said that yesterday. We wonder if she had a few popping backstage before getting out and saying that kind of, you know what, because I'll tell you, anyone with half a brain knows you weren't even close, Kamala Harris. And by the way, 2000 might be, shall we say, the closest election in the 21st century, hanging chads and all. I cannot believe what they did. I'm angry. I'm disgusted. I'm furious, and I'm telling you it's worse than Watergate because they're using it for their own political gain. This is all about them accumulating more political power. And what's beautiful about all of it is that it got them nowhere because we see through it, all of it. And we have a way to connect individually in ways that, you know, we probably wouldn't have had however many years ago. You go back 50 years, we wouldn't have had this. Reminder, subscribe, share, like. It's important right now. Incredibly important. You think about all these cases that they had against him. How many cases? What was the latest number? I think I saw 50 some odd indictments. I mean, one after another, they were coming, firing at Donald Trump, right? Including the case that they got the infamous mugshot that now sits outside the Oval Office. The infamous mugshot courtesy of one Fani. Like your, you know.
And not only that, all these local cases like Fani. It's spelled Fanny. It's spelled Fanny like your ass, right, Fanny? But when she became DA, she decided to add a little French, a little fancy. Fani.
It's Fanny. Yeah. Okay. She wanted to get, Frenchy. Seemed like she was a little more than she is. Anyway. She's not all that. Her case against the presidency of the United States is about to be thrown out down to the last 14 days because nobody's taking it because there is no case. Turned out she was having a secret romance on the side, a little office fling that apparently is still going on. I mean, the guy got divorced from his wife over it. Thank goodness he was getting divorced. Otherwise, we might not even know. Yeah, the divorce proceedings revealed all this stuff. And he was spending a lot of time with one Miss Fani Willis, whether he admitted this or not. I'm going to get to that in a second. It's a story about what? There's people that are going down. Bongino said it. They're coming forward one after another.
Are you going to be looking into, when Kash and Pam, any potential collusion between the DOJ, Letitia James, the novel legal theory of Alvin Bragg, or Nathan Wade, or Fani Willis and the DOJ? Is that something? Has anything come up? Is there any way to determine whether or not evidence was destroyed in any of these cases?
Well, there's always a way to determine that. I don't want to comment on that specific case right now for a reason. I don't want to get ahead of the Department of Justice on that. But I want to say this. The FBI obviously has the public corruption portfolio. And yes, if you are a corrupt politician out there, if you are engaged in behavior, you know what you're doing, We're going to find you. I promise. No one is going to get off. The days of selecting and putting your partisan bias on and taking care of your friends, those days are over. You know what, Sean? I don't have any friends. I don't want any friends. Well, maybe outside of you and a couple of, I don't care. I didn't come here for the money. I didn't come here to make, I know.
No, you didn't go there for the money. I can tell people that for sure.
No, I didn't come here to make friends. I don't give a damn about friends. I don't have any friends. I don't want any friends. I got my wife, I got you, and I got a small crew of people. So I don't need any friends. If
you want a friend in D.C., get a dog.
We're coming for you.
That'll help.
Yeah, exactly. You want a friend in D.C., right? Go get a Labradoodle like I have, because there are no friends in D.C. You've been doing this, 30 years? There are no friends here.
All right. Well, I consider him a friend. I live outside D.C., so I got that going for me. Anyway, he made it very clear there was more to come. We learned, of course, today that they've fired the team involved with the Arctic frost spying on GOP senators. And now Fani Willis, we're going to get more information there, because what was the coordination? That was my big question the whole time. What was the coordination between Merrick Garland and what was going on with Fani and Fani, whatever, the woman down in Georgia who was having the fling with Nathan Wade. Apparently not just a fling. Like I said, it's still going on, allegedly, from some of the reports that we have gotten. Here she is, though, playing naive. Like she doesn't know that, somehow the office romance is just not appropriate, given that she employs him and she's employing him with taxpayer dollars out of Georgia.
Are you aware that Fulton County requires you to disclose any relationship with someone that you're doing business with?
I'm not aware, and I know often that things are confused with state constitutional officers in county, but I'm not aware.
Yeah, you're not aware. Oh, you're just a moron. Yeah, she's going down, okay? She's going down. Meanwhile, Letitia James, ladies and gentlemen, is going down. Lindsay Halligan waiting to move forward with the prosecution against one Letitia James for alleged mortgage fraud abuse in the state of Virginia. Because you know the drill, you know the story. We've been through it many times, but there's a certain irony here, right? Because she was the lady that was going after Donald Trump because she alleged that he was getting preferable financing from Deutsche Bank after Deutsche Bank had done an analysis and determined that whatever he was saying was worth investing in because they were taking on the risk. It was private risk, very different than the kind of risk involved in the overall mortgage market that's backed by the FHFA, right? In terms of Letitia James and what she tried to do. It is alleged that she was trying to get a lower rate on her mortgage because she was declaring it to be her primary residence there in Virginia, even though she was the Attorney General of New York. She said, no, just a clerical error. Well, that's not flying. Originally, there was some hesitancy to move forward with an indictment, just like with one James Comey. Well, you had James Comey's son-in-law, for goodness sakes, actually working in the Eastern District of Virginia's prosecution office. It's unbelievable. I mean, you want to talk about having spies everywhere, right? Talking about incestuous. He had to resign on the day that they announced the indictment for one James Comey. So who is next? Letitia James. And it's not just on the mortgage case, okay? She's facing new troubles out of New York because what happened in New York? Oh, she decided to go after a man kind of like Jack Smith was going after these senators. I mean, it's a violation, whether you want to talk wiretapping or just we're going to just sue you and sue you and sue you into oblivion to try to bankrupt you, a violation of civil rights. That's what the DOJ prosecutor out of New York is alleging for one Letitia James. I mean, that case that was for nearly $500 million, forgive me, nearly a $500 million. With a B, they tried to get Donald Trump on. I mean, the judge is in on it too, and that whole thing got thrown out, remember?
Fox News Alert, a New York appeals court just this morning has thrown out President Donald Trump's massive civil fraud penalty. The decision from a 5-panel group in New York's appellate division changed the original decision that stood to cost Trump over $500 million. One appeals judge calling the lower court's penalty an excessive fine that violates the 8th Amendment of the United States Constitution. You might remember that New York Attorney General Letitia James' office says despite this decision, they will not be dropping the case.
Wow. So she's still going back, right? Like she's actually saying, oh no, I'm going to appeal that one, even though they told her she's nuts. I mean, it is a total violation of the 8th Amendment, right? Didn't we leave England for a reason? Because we didn't want just like crazy penalties that were so out of whack with the alleged crime. I mean, they still didn't make a decision on the alleged crime, with which I would argue there was no alleged crime. But the penalty, if you were to assume it was actually true, was wild and insufficiently excessive. It was massively excessive. You don't charge someone $500 million because of this. I mean, the woman is just so deranged, but you know what she was doing the entire time. Get Trump, get Trump, get Trump. That was her only goal in life. Well, now, Letitia, tables have turned. You see, Letitia James is now out of money. She's hard up. She doesn't have the fees to pay her fancy, high-priced lawyer, Abby Lowell, who actually was Hunter Biden's lawyer. Kind of incestuous again, right? That Abby Lowell is actually doing kind of well. He's representing a whole bunch of people that are in trouble. A whole bunch of them, right? So he's laughing all the way to the bank. Abby Lowell taking on Letitia James for the allegations against her, and she doesn't have any money to pay. And guess what else? She's not going to be able to use taxpayer dollars in the state of New York because the Republicans finally, stood up and said enough is enough. So she can't use taxpayer dollars, even though Kathy Hochul, her buddy, put aside $10 million for her legal fees. Think about that. I mean, Abby Lowell had to be salivating at that case. Anyway, this was reported in the Gothamist the other day saying, you know what, she was coming under fire, right? Because her campaign, I mean, one, they're soliciting funds every day, every chance they get. So be careful what emails you sign up for. The Democrats, Letitia James, are going to be coming after you saying, hey, can you spare a dime? Because she's in serious legal trouble. Meanwhile, you've got this legal aid fund, the legal defense fund, Gothamist writes, can actually be tapped. And, a lot of people that contribute to it, they can contribute as much as they want. They don't have the same kind of rules around this. I'll read directly from the article. The Democrat Attorneys General Association said contributions would be made through a 529 organization and would be disclosed in an annual filing. That kind of organization can accept unlimited donations from individuals, corporations, and labor unions in order to influence politics, appointments, or elections. So, Letitia, you got to go find the LinkedIn guy. Remember? Reed? Maybe he can help you out because he's got deep pockets. Maybe George Soros, too. They'll find a way to contribute to your big fund. This is what her attorney, Abby Lowell, has lined up. Don't forget, DiNapoli's office, we reported on this. They said, no way, she's not going to use this money. There's no way we're going to allow her to use $10 million. Apparently, she got to use some of it, though. DiNapoli's office approved a request by James to use up to $1 million of taxpayer funds for outside legal firms. I mean, that's kind of amazing. Like, why should she get to use a dime? It's a personal case in her home. So she's out there. She wants to use $9 million more, right? Kathy approved the $10 million, but the Republicans in New York are like, it's not happening. So Letitia's going down. That indictment is coming. We already saw Comey. We know that these people are in big, big trouble. The agents, not just the agents though, because again, they're just like the peons. I want to be really careful here. I mean, they have a hand in it too. But is this Jack Smith ordering all this, and who signed off on it? Was there a FISA warrant? What else do we know? I need to know more. I need to know more, and I need to see accountability. We need to roll up our sleeves and make sure that everybody's accountable because this kind of stuff cannot happen. I've said this to people before. I get it. Donald Trump's in charge and what, people worry like, oh, he's going to do this, he's going to do that. Do you see what they're talking about on The View today? You probably don't want to, but I may just have to show you anyway. All these concerns, oh, he's going to steal the election, he's going to do this, he's going to do that. And they use that to then go out and justify whatever they're going to go after. So they used J6. They inflated that. Don't forget, that was Nancy Pelosi's daughter who did the whole documentary and probably got paid for it too because she was selling it to HBO. And then CNN was running it as their exclusive. So I don't know if they bought it from Nancy's daughter or did they buy it from HBO, but they were running it like it was their exclusive. They were running it as though they were there. That was her footage, you guys. Like, she went in there with her own little camcorder, okay? And she's taking the footage. Nancy, you couldn't have bothered to invite a real journalist? I mean, we would have even taken one from NBC News, maybe. No, she had to have her daughter, Alexandra Pelosi, the filmmaker, in there documenting everything, which was then repurposed and packaged on CNN and ran in a loop. I mean, wild, as an exclusive, as though it was theirs, as though they were there, and they weren't. Why? Oh, again, because they were going to use J6 as a way to take down the entire Republican apparatus. It was their way of going after Turning Point and Charlie Kirk and 91 other organizations. It was their way of going after any GOP sitting senator. And this kind of stuff is not okay. It is never okay, and it's got to stop. But they're trying again in their own way, shape, or form. I mean, ABC, part of the problem. I'm still waiting on Brandon Carr. Brandon, you've got an opportunity here. You really do. I'm just saying. I'm calling him, face to face, mano a mano, or whatever you would say. Brandon, this is an FCC regulated property, okay? The View cannot, and I repeat, The View cannot just go on and spout disinformation all the time. Why? Because it is doing a massive disservice to the general public and the community that they are there intended to serve. And this is why there is an opportunity, unlike any other right now, as they continue to double down on insanity. It's one thing to have a viewpoint. These ladies all have the same viewpoint, and then they masquerade as news and call themselves news, and they actually are under the news division, in fairness, at ABC, and say crazy stuff like this. This is today's show.
This is in order to make the case, because in their minds, in all of their minds, they now believe they have carte blanche to do whatever they want to.
That's right.
Yes, that's what the feeling is.
And if they stop us from voting, that's the one thing people have.
Well, I mean, it's the one.
They're gonna stop you from voting? Are you kidding me? I mean, the level of hysteria and paranoia is just a little excessive.
It's the one thing that makes us very different from lots of other countries. Our votes, they do count. I do know that they count.
If we
don't always vote.
Okay, so now you've got a situation where Whoopi Goldberg is like, hey, we're going to be in trouble. We're going to be in trouble because, you see, Joy just said something that's actually insane. Literally insane, right? And FCC violation. So she's like trying to walk it back. It's amazing when you're sitting there and looking at this show going, wait a second, is Whoopi the sane one?
Well, I think people will figure out how to vote because one thing I believe I know about Americans is they don't want to be told what to do. Yeah. They don't want that. They don't want it. You can suggest some stuff, but they don't want you saying, you got to go over here and do this. They don't want that. They don't want a dictatorship. And I think people want, okay. I hear you.
The music. You see, they're bringing on the music because they're like, Whoopi, watch it. Where are you going? Now you're calling this a dictatorship. And Joy Behar already said, well, you're not going to get to vote in the next election. You see the kind of CRAP that they're actually spoon-feeding people who are, I'm sorry, stupid enough to be sitting home at 11 a.m. and watching this CRAP? I mean, I'm sorry. This is a terrible show. I only show it to you because it's important to understand how they're trying to brainwash the American public. But they're not succeeding because guess what? The smart ones, you're over here. You've abandoned mainstream media alongside me. Doesn't it feel good, right? And by the way, we just started this show like a year and a half ago, religiously doing a show every single day live. And what do you know? We've built this to over 1 million subs, a little self-promotion here for me and for you, because it's because of you guys I've been able to do this. So thank you for making this happen. But my call to Brandon right now is to, again, go in there with another warning and let Bob Iger know they are on federally controlled airwaves, okay? So at some point, you guys, you need to relax a little bit and make sure that you are serving your community and having a diversity of opinion around that little table that you call The View, if you're going to continue to do all this political coverage, because it's not helping America. You're not fair. You're not right. And you're just trying to brainwash. And this is what they were doing. Again, I want to go back to the importance of J6. The J6, Nancy Pelosi's daughter, shooting all the footage, right? And then they played it on a loop. They put it into a primetime special. Who did they hire? Oh, the guy that used to be the Good Morning America. I know him. He was actually a nice guy. At one point, Good Morning America tried to hire me. I went to Bloomberg Television instead. It all worked out because I'm now here in the end. But I remember, perfectly nice guy, good producer, an entertainment show producer. Good Morning America is an entertainment show with a little bit of news there. For it's like 7 to 7:30. They get a little bit of news in the morning. They get Georgie Poo, Stephanopoulos, anchoring that little bit of news that they have in the morning. But it's mainly a cooking and, fashion and entertainment show. But they brought this guy in because they wanted him to produce the primetime special that was supposed to convince all of America Donald Trump was bad. And they could just annihilate the Republican Party forever going forward. That was their goal, and they failed to succeed. And isn't that heavenly, right? Because they were trying to do some pretty scary stuff, really scary stuff. We got to get to Chicago, guys. Chicago's turning into a you-know-what storm. They call it the Windy City. This is going to turn into a full-on you-know-what storm because you got a really irresponsible person, Brandon Johnson, a.k.a. BJ, running the show. And wow, BJ is, again, I'm going to go with irresponsible, but this is the kind of talk that's going to get you into a really, really dangerous situation really, really fast. He's got his ice-free zones. This is worse than just saying, oh, we're not going to cooperate. I'll explain why. It's significantly worse from a legal perspective and actually could lead us into very bad territory that this country should never, ever again go into. Here we go.
Is it the case that, as Pritzker frames it,
forgive me, that's a setup to what Brandon is doing. And it's worth listening to right now. Because Pritzker, who is the governor of Illinois, from the Hyatt, chain family, Donald Trump likes to say, he was born into billions, but he wasn't smart enough in order to work in the family business. But apparently somebody thought he was good looking enough to work in politics. He's now the governor of Illinois, and he's trying to claim, along with BJ, Brandon Johnson, that this is nothing but an attempt to try and hurt people of color. And I just got to tell you, Stephen Miller is fantastic. He is brilliant, and he does not suffer fools gladly. And even when he's on television, he's not going to crack a smile just to crack a smile. He doesn't have any patience for stupid people, stupid questions, and stupid stuff. So this is wow territory. Stephen Miller's takedown of the CNN host while simultaneously taking down all the Dems in Chicago who are spouting this nonsense.
is it the case that, as Pritzker frames it, you are profiling brown people, that this immigration crackdown is designed to go after people of color?
It's such a, oh, what a dumb question. The illegal aliens who are here are taking jobs away from blacks.
Okay, really quick. Do you know how often, we all want to say that? What a dumb question. I mean, that's what's great. Again, in this particular medium, for me anyway, no longer being in network TV, it's you get it all. It's raw, it's real. But what I appreciate about Miller is he doesn't care that he's on CNN. It's raw, it's real, no matter where you are. Let's listen again.
Are here. Oh, what a dumb question. The illegal aliens who are here are taking jobs away from blacks. They're taking jobs away from whites. They're taking jobs away from Latinos. They're taking their health benefits away. They're taking their school slots away. And of course, in many cases, they're committing heinous crimes. We cannot have a system of law in this country that privileges illegal aliens over American citizens. And that's what they're doing. You know it, and I know it.
So that's not exactly a no, Stephen. Can you just unequivocally state that the immigration policy...
I said it's a dumb question. Okay.
Well, I appreciate that.
But it's a dumb question.
So no, this policy is not designed
I thought when I said it was a dumb question, it meant no.
Well, I just want to be clear and precise. I appreciate you trying to qualify my questions, but nevertheless, I think it's a fair one that a lot of people have. My
full answer is no, that is a lie, and it's a dumb question.
They Did you get it, buddy? Did you get it? All right, it is a dumb question. It is a dumb question because what he's saying, and he's right to say this, I mean, he's making every point. Importantly here, it has nothing to do with the color of someone's skin and everything to do with, you probably shouldn't be taking the resources away from the actual Americans that are there. How many times have we gone through, I've showed you a bunch of sound bites. And we have them over on the short feed of people in Chicago saying, hey, what about us? What about us? What about us? What about us indeed? What about the Americans that actually live in Chicago, that were born in Chicago, and that are trying to make a living and have a peaceful enough life in Chicago? Now they're being saturated by, people who are not from Chicago, who are not from America, that were just imported in and given everything on a silver platter. That's not going over well. And what Stephen's point is, one thing doesn't have anything to do with the other. This has nothing to do with targeting people of a certain ethnicity and everything to do with making sure that we provide the services for the people that live in this country, that were born in this country. Thank you very much. They're the taxpayers, and they deserve priority status. But instead, we're living in an upside down world, It reminds me of the pregnant man emoji. I mean, we're in an upside down world where black is white and white is black and day is night and night is day. And for some reason, boys can compete against girls in sports, and in Chicago and in New York City and in Los Angeles or San Francisco or Boston. It's the priority of putting people who are not actually from this country first. And that's wacky, okay? That shouldn't be. I say this with no prejudice. By the way, we're a country of immigrants. I get it, okay? And there's no one more I think the American people are very, very welcoming. I'm going to say there's no one more welcoming than the American people. But at some point, when push comes to shove, we hit a wall. And we've hit that wall. And so now Donald Trump was elected, and he's doing something about it. He does have a mandate. He was elected both by popular vote and by the Electoral College. Sorry, Kamala. Sorry, Dems. You know what? You just can't seem to get it right, can you? But then they keep lying to us. Whether they're lying to us about J6 wiretapping investigation, or whether they're lying to us about Hunter Biden's laptop, or whether they're lying to us about the lab in Wuhan, China, or whether they're lying to us about what just happened over the weekend with ICE agents that were assaulted. And so this was a big deal, right? Because people are sitting there going, why is it that no one came to the aid? No one came to the aid of these ICE agents who called for help. Listen to Tim Lyons, the head of ICE, laying it out.
You get a call on the radio, 1033, an officer assist call, you show up. What do you make of not only the audio evidence, but also the real life experience of your federal agents, of them not showing up to the call?
Hey, Lawrence, yeah, it's sad because seriously, all law enforcement will respond to any other brother or sister in law enforcement that's in need. And that's what didn't happen here in Chicago. You have 30 Border Patrol agents that are being swarmed, pinned in, attacked. She has a firearm in the vehicle. They have to return fire. Yet the officers of Chicago PD are told to stand down. It just shows where we're at right now with the sad state of law enforcement going on in Illinois, is the fact that you had other federal officers under attack, yet because of politics and because of the way some people feel about immigration enforcement, they did not come to the aid of federal law enforcement officers.
You also have bounties now, according to the Secretary of Homeland Security, against some of your officers as well?
We are, yeah. Can't really get into it because of criminal intelligence in some of the cases we're working, but we've seen an uptick in actual bounties, photos of agents and agency leadership as being targets of attack by gangs and cartels. It really just has to stop. And again, all the men and women of ICE are doing are going out there and enacting the laws that Congress has written.
Of course it has to stop.
Law enforcement mission.
Of course it has to stop, okay? No brainer, it has to stop. ICE is doing what Congress has asked them to do. This was done for years and years and years before, and now suddenly it's a problem because it's Donald Trump, because they want to get in the way of it. So much so that those ICE officers did not get their call answered, and then they tried to lie about it until finally the head of police in Chicago, who probably doesn't like this very much because he's being told to stand down. And he just blew the lid on everything, but listen to the lies that they were manufacturing one after another before he finally came in and set the record straight. Watch.
What do you know about this incident? Were federal agents boxed in and assaulted?
Well, we don't have a lot of facts. What happens in these sorts of incidents is typically ICE puts out a press release before anybody else can speak with the press, and then it gets reported on social media and elsewhere. So they are just putting out their propaganda.
She claims that federal agents were surrounded and were threatened. What are local authorities telling you about what they think happened here?
Well, they lie, right? The Trump administration lies. We have a president who's a known liar, and they have been they've been lying about the situation all along.
They are agents of law enforcement.
Listen.
If you box them in with vehicles, it is reasonable for them to believe that they are being ambushed and that this could end in a deadly situation. Do not box in any law enforcement officer. If you ram any vehicle, especially that one that contains law enforcement agents, and that's any law enforcement, local, state, federal, county, and you do this intentionally, this is considered deadly force. Deadly force is anything that can cause great bodily harm or death.
So he just validated what the ICE officers had said, that they were being put in a very dangerous position. And he just came out and said, hey, Chicago, don't do this because they're going to use deadly force. Okay, so that's really bad in and of itself. Of course, don't forget, the high-flying mayor who's got like 150 protection officers himself, Brendan Johnson of Chicago, he's the one that already said, I'm not going to give any help. I should expect absolutely nothing from us. If they come to the Windy City, if National Guard, they're in the Windy City, good luck. We're not going to do anything to help them at all. Here he is.
Our local police department will not ever cooperate with ICE. Whatever their constitutional authority is.
Okay. Whatever their constitutional authority is, we are not going to cooperate with ICE. He made that very, very clear. So kind of a lousy thing to do. And I've said all along, like, I don't really think that he can do that. Like, I don't think that you can get away with that. But he just took it much further, okay? Chicago just upped the ante in a way that, you know, we haven't seen for a whole lot of years in this country, because he's setting up a federal versus state scenario that is incredibly dangerous with very bad precedent. I will tell you, this will go through the courts in a lawful manner, and it will be decided in favor of the federal government and Donald Trump, thanks to the supremacy clause. Brandon Johnson cannot do what he is now doing. He might have been able to get away with, okay, we're going to stand down, and maybe it's not a nice thing. Maybe the chief of police doesn't really like this, that we can't respond to officers in need if ICE agents are getting attacked and we can't do a darn thing. But now it's just entered a whole other zone because of this that Brandon Johnson said yesterday. Watch.
Today, we are signing an executive order aimed at reining in this out-of-control administration. The order establishes ICE-free zones. That means that city property and unwilling private businesses will no longer serve as staging grounds for these raids.
Okay, here's why this is a big deal. First of all, he was like, okay, we're hands off. We're not going to do anything. Well, now he's being proactive. Now he's actually deliberately trying to take over parts of Chicago. This is federal land. I mean, you can use the Commerce Clause if you want, okay? Let's go with the Commerce Clause. Isn't that Section 5? Let's see. Do I have the Commerce Clause? Sometimes I have it handy. I can read to you guys. But anyway, Commerce Clause is a big deal. And I like using the Commerce Clause because the Commerce Clause actually is very applicable in this case. Federal government doesn't have a whole lot of power, but they do have power over who is in the country. And they certainly have power over in jurisdiction over these lands. You can't just say, okay, we're going to have an ICE-free zone. Like, you actually can't do that. That is reminiscent of 1963, Alabama, George Wallace saying, I have made a decision that nobody can come to University of Mississippi unless you're white. And I'm going to stand in the way along with all my guards and my troops, and we're going to prevent anybody in the federal government from coming in. We're going to prevent these students from coming in. I mean, it's the inverse of it, but it's exactly the same thing. So he can't do that. Brandon Johnson cannot do that, and he will get struck down in court. I promise you that. But he's trying to fan the flames of something. Listen to him here.
This moment that we are in, Chicago was built for this moment. Immigrants from around the world, descendants of slaves, have come to this city to make it the global capital of the world. And now we stand in a moment that is testing our very humanity, and the city of Chicago will stand the test of time.
Kind of seemed like he was trying to, I don't know, invoke like 1860s America there. Of course, he's got it a little bit backwards because that would have been states trying to have power over the federal government. And, well, we know how that wound up. Okay, so again, Supremacy Clause, Commerce Clause, Migration Clause, take your pick. I'm going to go with supremacy right now because it's simple, okay? The federal government is going to reign supreme. So you can't come up with your little ICE-free zones there, buddy. BJ, it's not happening. And by the way, the people don't even like you as it is. For goodness sakes, they're like begging for Trump in Chicago. Kristi Noem pointing out, smartly, he's got like a 6% approval rating. I mean, that's worse than the whole Democrat Party.
Well, let's remember that mayor has a less than 6% approval rating in Chicago. So the people who live there, less than 6%, think he might be doing somewhat of a good job. Overwhelmingly, that man is a failure. He's a failure for his people and hasn't stood up for the victims of the crimes that have happened in his city. So we're going to keep doing our work every day when we're there doing our operation.
Yeah. Every day.
When I'm there with them, people on the streets are clapping as we do our work. They're clapping as these officers are arresting these bad criminals. And out of the 12 that we arrested during the short period of time I was there, 6 of them had criminal records in their backgrounds that the state had arrested them and just turned them loose on the street again for assault, for weapons possession, for robbery. Those individuals now are off the streets thanks to President Trump, not thanks to that mayor who's delusional at best.
He's awful. He's totally awful. I mean, it's not American. What he's trying to do right now, it's like resist. I mean, they've called it the resistance movement, right? Instead of all being on board and say, hey, let's make this safer. Let's make Chicago a place where you can raise a family and have a future. Instead of doing that, he is choosing to double down and be anti-Trump and tie up resources and tie up time that we don't need tied up. I mean, it feels like deja vu. This is what they were trying to do in 2016, right? And then this is what they were doing to relate back to how we began the show with J6. And you got Smith saying, okay, I'm going to go out and wiretap all these senators' phones. There's going to be HELL to pay for that. It's not who we are. It is not our nation. And it's high time we restore it to what has made us so historically great and will continue to propel us in the future. I mean, it's not our wealth nor our power, all of which are fantastic. But I'll tell you, ladies and gentlemen, it is our principles. It is our principles here in this country that guide us and make us strong. And it's thanks to the great American experiment, right? The founding fathers that said, hey, we want to get away from the tyranny of big government. We want to get away from the tyranny of the king. We want to get away from people having so much say over your life and give that power back to the people. That was the entire mission. I mean, you think about it, and I think about it right now because we're looking at a 250th anniversary that is a big deal and a great thing. I mean, we have had a wonderful 250 years and we want to have another great 250 years. But that's why it's important that we have the right people in place to preserve those great American values. Every moment in our history, right? From the revolution to our greatest inventions, to landing on the moon. You look at SpaceX and Elon Musk's accomplishments. We have taken so many chances and so many risks in order to get this country moving forward. But we've done it one step at a time. Really and truly, one step at a time. And now as we lead into America's 250th anniversary, Americans for Prosperity and myself, we are together calling on you to take your small step, anything you can do to help just celebrate this wonderful nation, 250 years. Americans for Prosperity is launching their One Small Step campaign. I'm going to put it here on the screen so that you can see it. Take one small step.com. Go there today to get started, to learn about how you can be part of this, because they want to take 250,000 steps in their Freedom Challenge. 250,000 Steps for Freedom Challenge. It's a national call to action, one of the largest grassroots organizations around that is there to do nothing but protect our American dream, and to make sure that we have the freedom to pursue the American dream. So do that for me today. A quick shout out to one of our sponsors here on the program, Balance in Nature. I love this stuff. I'll tell you, how often can you actually turn over the bottle of something, right? And actually understand the ingredients that are on the backside? That's a rare thing. It's worth actually flagging. Look, if you can't pronounce it, you probably shouldn't be taking it, right? Every single ingredient in Balance of Nature in their fruits and veggie supplements it's exactly what it sounds like. So you get whole fruits, you get whole vegetables, no binders, no fillers, no artificial colors, just the real good stuff. Gluten-free, vegan-friendly, and packed at peak ripeness. They have 31 different fruits and veggies. They harvest them. They gently vacuum, cold dry them into a fine powder to lock in nutrition. So it's like getting a huge platter, if you would, of fruits and veggies. Yeah, we all love that, right? All together in one. You can go check them out. Get 35% off plus a free bottle of fiber and spice. That's on top of free shipping. Just go to balanceinnature.com and use my discount code TRISH, TRISH. Take control of your nutrition naturally. So much of this shutdown has come down to one thing, one big issue, and it's healthcare. For some reason, the Democrats feel it's so important to offer healthcare to people who are here illegally in the country that they're willing to actually shut down the government over it. And then they want to turn around and blame Republicans. I mean, I just don't think that's really flying for them. It's not really working, shall we say. Here we go. Hakeem Jeffries decided to go out and do his little spin. It's Republicans, it's Republicans, it's Republicans. And so he did this little PR move. And I got to tell you, again, they just don't get it. Like, they just have no sophistication. I mean, they didn't even have any lights in the room, for goodness sakes. When you see this, I mean, this is the TV producer in me. I'm sorry. Hakeem, for goodness sakes, just turn on the lights. We can't even see you. And your charts, they look super boring. But let's watch it and laugh at it together.
Leader Schumer and I are in regular contact. House Democrats and Senate Democrats are in regular contact with each other. And I'm thankful for the fact that Senate Democrats have continued to strongly and boldly hold the line. What is John Thune doing? What are they doing? What, 5 times?
Okay, this is his attempt to blame the Republicans. Again, no lights and some really boring looking charts. Oh, they got one tweet from Marjorie Taylor Greene.
They've brought this dead on arrival partisan Republican spending bill to the floor for a vote, and it's gone down 5 times. That's legislative insanity. Doing the same thing and expecting...
There's another meme. I'd say AOC and Nancy Pelosi are looking surprisingly good. Dios mío. In other words, he's out there saying, it's the Republicans, it's Republicans, it's Republicans. And what are they doing? They're issuing another meme, right? With AOC twirling around in a nice little dress and the mariachi band in the background. In other words, they are just no match. And so when you look at their ratings right now and you see these numbers, there was another poll, Inside Advantage, that just came out yesterday. You can see Donald Trump is up more than 10 points with young people. I look at this one that came out from Quinnipiac rather recently, and the Democrats have never seen such horrible, horrible, horrible numbers. And then the New York Times came out with a poll, and what do you know? The New York Times CNN Atlanta poll shows that Americans blame the Democrats for the shutdown, something that Chuck Schumer can't quite get his head around, and figures, well, the New York Times, they must be biased for Trump. He really said that. Look.
Now, I know the leader is going to show a poll that says that Democrats will be blamed for the shutdown. There are many more polls that show Republicans are blamed. The question in that poll is biased. Biased. In the New York Times, but it's biased. If you turn the... That's true. I don't always believe the New York Times. You can be sure of that. Neither do you. Okay.
I mean, the whole lot of them had to laugh at that, right? Because when Chuck Schumer is complaining about the New York Times being biased for Trump, well, the world must be really kind of upside down. But here's the deal. Chucky, no one likes you right now. You're not very popular right now because you guys keep lying to us. I'm sorry. We've had enough, okay? There's lots of money there, $1.5 trillion that you want to get extended. By the way, you only got this money during COVID. You guys slammed all this stuff in there when Biden came into office, and then you came up with trillions of dollars worth of spending. Well, guess what? We don't want it anymore. We're not going to pay for it anymore. And Americans voted against this and against you for a reason, in part because, yeah, we do want to put America first. Imagine that. They're having a tough time in Democrat circles living down this little thing called tape. Senator Jeannie Shaheen out of New Hampshire, live free or die, getting caught with her pants down on this one.
I haven't heard anybody in my party saying that illegal immigrants should get access to the health insurance marketplace.
I'm so glad you said that. Actually, I have some tape of your Democratic Party members saying this on the debate stage. So they've all said it. Let's play the clip.
A lot of you have been talking tonight about these government health care plans that you've proposed in one form or another. This is a show of hands question, and hold them up for a moment so people can see. Raise your hand if your government plan would provide coverage for undocumented immigrants.
Senator, that's literally every member of your party, from moderate to more progressive, that have said that in the past.
Right? What's she supposed to do then? My gosh. Wow. Well, that was embarrassing for her, but this is what I'm saying. They keep trying to suggest something that is absolutely, totally untrue. And I think Americans have just gotten to the point where, we've kind of had it and we don't want to stand for that anymore. And we don't want to actually be lied to anymore. And this is the reality of the moment where we are. Okay. So you have to own up to everything that you have put forward, and you have to take accountability for that, whether it's the media, whether it's the FBI, or whether it's the Democrat Party. I mean, this was great. I mean, we know Jake is trying to get a job over on Fox, but nonetheless, it is good to see Hakeem Jeffries get called out, as he did here.
Donald Trump blessed it as well.
So let me ask you about a provision that the Republicans are talking about quite a bit. I know you want to talk about, and Democrats want to talk about, extending the Obamacare subsidies, which expire at the end of 2025. But they talk about the provisions, and it's right here, subtitle E, and this has to do with the repeal of health care subtitle changes, and specifically what it is. How they characterize it is, you want to give health insurance to undocumented immigrants. I understand that's not really an accurate depiction, but what it does do is...
It's a lie.
It's a lie, but what you support does bring back funding for emergency Medicaid to hospitals, some of which does pay for undocumented immigrants and people who don't have health insurance. And also there is this provision, and it's not about undocumented immigrants, it's about people with asylum seekers and people with temporary protected status, et cetera, but about their ability to get Medicaid. So they're non-citizens, they're not undocumented, they're not illegal. Why even include that in a bill knowing that they're going to seize right upon that and use that to message? I understand that.
Why do that? Yeah, why do that? I love actually seeing these politicians get held accountable. Of course, they just try and spin their way out of the answers, but it was not a bright move. I mean, you're talking about $6.5 billion in California that went for healthcare for illegals, for hospitals, for emergency room treatments for illegals. And again, the what about us comment keeps coming back because Americans are saying, hang on, what about us? And Donald Trump is saying, I care about you, and I want to make sure that people who are not here legally in this country are going to get these benefits. Thus, this is why we're dealing with a shutdown right now. With that in mind, I want to just mention something about Big Pharma in all of this. President Trump is doing a lot right now in terms of trying to go where no president has gone before, holding Big Pharma accountable for ripping off everyday folks. But Big Pharma and its army of lobbyists are pretty powerful. They're working overtime to keep Americans paying the world's highest prescription drug prices. They are already hiking prices on hundreds of medicines this year, simultaneously flooding us with billions of misleading ads. Of course, those things that you see on TV, on the network TV. Not here, on the network TV for drugs that we may not need. And worse yet, Big Pharma pushes government mandates designed to stack the deck in their favor. Their goal in Washington is pretty simple. They want to escape accountability. They want to block free market competition. And they want to jack up outrageous prices. So this means more government intrusion. What does it mean? Bigger profits for them, of course, and higher costs for families and businesses. Conservatives for lower health care. I've partnered with them on this because it's important to remember what this Big Pharma agenda is. It sticks Americans and employers with billions of higher premiums and drug costs. I'll tell you, President Trump's not backing down. His administration is cracking down on drug companies that gouge Americans and mislead patients with obnoxious advertising. Meanwhile, conservatives in Congress are introducing reforms to stop Big Pharma's games and block generics and keep prices high. So join us right now and reject Big Pharma's agenda. Go visit pharmawindfall.com today to help lower drug prices. Again, that's pharmawindfall.com. You can see it there on the screen. I mean, the pharma industry is just insane, right? But they don't know what's hit them either. I mean, meanwhile, you got Letitia James in New York City saying, whoa, we don't know what's hit us. We got $18 billion getting cut from our infrastructure budget. Boy, that kind of is too bad, huh? But Letitia, it's just what happens when the Grim Reaper comes calling. Donald Trump has sent Russ Vought in there of Project 2025 fame, and Russ is basically taking a big red Sharpie to our budget, and he's looking for anything and everything that we don't need, and that includes $8 billion worth of energy projects, to nowhere in Democrat blue-run states, and $18 billion in an infrastructure project to New York. I mean, you got to prioritize. He is prioritizing, importantly, Homeland Security. He is making sure that they put more money towards counterterrorism efforts in New York State and New York City, things that should be done. I mean, Biden was cutting all that money, for goodness sakes. Hey, defund the police. Who needs that? And we don't have to worry about overseas terrorism. We're just focused on the Catholic Church, right? And those Latin masses and school board meetings, for goodness sakes. I mean, it was just wild. It feels like a really bad dream, but it was real, okay? I'm here to remind you, it was real, and we can't ever go back to those days again. Anyway, Mike Johnson doing an excellent job breaking it down. This is the reality of what happens. One Letitia James and Kathy Hochul. This is just how it goes. We got to make our choices. So be it.
Everybody needs to understand how this works. When Congress decides to turn off the lights, to shut the government down, it shifts the authority to the executive branch. That's how the process works. The person who has decided to put the White House in that situation is Chuck Schumer, who leads the Democrats, the 44 who keep voting to keep the government from opening up. They're voting to shut it down. So what happens in that situation? Whoever is the president, whoever is sitting in the White House, and their staffs at the Office of Management and Budget are given an unenviable task. It's a regretful situation. They have to then determine, since the spigots have been effectively turned off and there's no more money coming in, they have to then prioritize, triage effectively, federal spending. They have to look at all of that and say, which things are deemed essential and which are non-essential, which priorities, policies, and personnel must be kept to keep the government operating, and which are less of a priority. So whomever is sitting in the White House gets to then apply their lenses of review. We happen to have a Republican, a conservative administration. We're very grateful for that. We're limited government conservatives. We think the government's too big. We think the federal government is too big. It does too many things, and it does almost nothing well. And so it serves the taxpayers to send less of their hard-earned money to Washington and keep more in their pockets. That's what we're advancing through the One Big Beautiful Bill and all the legislative priorities that we achieve. But see, sometimes Democrats, not sometimes, all the time, Democrats don't agree with that because they love big government. I mean, listen to them. They want the government to control every aspect of your lives, and they need all of your hard-earned dollars to do that. In fact, they'd like to take them all. That's what the socialists are arguing for. That's what the Marxists believe. We believe the opposite. So here's this situation. Here's the president, the current occupant of the White House, that's been given this opportunity by Chuck Schumer. And he's a limited government conservative. He's looking at that and saying, gee, you know, this is inefficient, this is ineffective. And we'd never get Democrat votes to limit that because they never vote to limit government, ever. It's against their religion. But he has that opportunity now to say this is a program that would serve the American people if it were not funded, because government would be more efficient and effective, and that serves everyone. So they're going to make those decisions.
You better believe they're going to make those decisions. And sure, they're hard decisions, but they have to be made. And it is the Democrats that actually gave him carte blanche. And so I think that's an important explanation. Mike Johnson did a really, really, really good job at that. I mean, nobody wants to have to fire anyone, don't get me wrong. But there is an overall belief, I think, from this administration that we need to get smaller. What do you think Doge was about, right? Let's get smaller, let's get leaner and meaner, and let's not have such a big bloated government. I realize that it is a religion. AOC, she's never met $1 of yours that she doesn't want to have herself so that she can reallocate it and spend it however she thinks is most fit for the population. I mean, in her case, it's a tax the rich dress, literally a dress that she wants to adorn her body with to go to the Met Gala and then not compensate. That was a big scandal. Not compensate the people that provided her with that dress and the shoes and the car, etc. I mean, it's always a problem. Take your pick historically all around the world. Do you think it ever works? The short answer, no. Most recent example, very close to home, 2.5 hours from Miami, Venezuela, okay? It just doesn't work. Anyway, we got a market at the end of the day slightly lower. I wanted to just mention that because gold, people are getting a little bit more nervous about this shutdown and how long it's going to go on. It'll eventually resolve itself. I do think, you know, when the market goes down, I'm never a long-term sort of fearful person of America. Right? I believe long-term in what's going on. I believe in Maganomics and what they're trying to accomplish right now. And it's one of the reasons why I invested today. And, you know, look, I have been telling you to buy gold, I think, since it was like 1,600, at least on this show. Not telling you. I should be careful about that. There's a little asterisk next to this because you do you. I invest for the long haul, and I look at certain things. I mean, gold is getting pricier. I get it right now. So you be cautious with what you're doing. I think one way to really, I'm going to make sure I have this on the screen. Do I have it? You can't really see it. I had 76 Research on the computer. I'm just going to put it up for you so that you can see. This is a company I started with my dear friend Rob, brilliant investor, spent 20 years on Wall Street as a mutual fund manager, one of the very, very best, just a great investor. And I'm not so shabby myself, but he's sort of, you know, the full-on professional. Yours truly has good macro sensibility, and I can talk about it and communicate it. And by the way, I was following Bitcoin from the time it was $10. $10. I didn't buy any of it back then. My husband did say, Trish, make sure when you get really good ideas in the future that, you know, you have my authorization, you can go in. Anyway, I want to give you the authorization to go to 76research.com today. Go to 76research.com, sign up. It's just $1 a month for our 76 report. Really, really helpful information there about navigating these markets and understanding how to invest in a time like this and to take advantage of opportunities that come along the way, depending on your risk profile, right? But that's all sort of worked out in the newsletter. So go look at that. It's great to have you guys all here. Wow, we got a big show today. Lots and lots and lots of people. I've been looking at your comments in real time. Thank you for all your generosity. Thank you for your support. Make sure you subscribe and hit the bell if you haven't. We are live every day right here on the Trish Regan Show. I also want to remind you to look at Spotify. Yeah, we're over on Spotify now with the video. Not live, but after the fact, pretty close to it. So you can always catch the replay right there. I think I put it in the show notes. I believe I did. So go up to the show notes, check it out there. I will see you back here live on the show, the Trish Regan Show on the front lines of history tomorrow.